Sunday morning. Welcome to our next lesson in our Under Construction series. We've been talking a lot about the planning aspect of construction, haven't we? We've talked about how before you build something, you need to get permission and you need to have a plan. But today we're going to talk about what I think is maybe the most fun part of the entire construction process, and that is not construction, but destruction. Sometimes if you're going to build something, you might have to tear part of an old building down, or maybe even the whole thing. I don't know if you guys have ever went by a construction site and seen a huge wrecking ball that can literally knock down a building. Sometimes they actually have to blow buildings up to let them fall down so they can clear the area and build something new. Maybe you guys have built a really big and amazing sandcastle or something really cool out of like Legos or blocks. And even though you work so hard on it, sometimes it's really fun just to knock it down, right? That's why I said it's the most fun part, because it's kind of fun knocking things down sometimes. But the whole point of knocking it down would be to build something better, right? So today our lesson is called Wrecking Ball, and we're going to be looking at a story where God's people, the Hebrews that we've been talking about the entire time that we were talking about Moses, those same people, they have a city that's standing in their way of the promised land. And the city is called Jericho. And the city of Jericho had these huge, strong walls all around the city. So the Hebrews couldn't just go in and go through the city. They needed God's help. And I'm going to go ahead and read the first several verses in Joshua 6, and we're going to learn about how God helped the Hebrews get past the city of Jericho. Now the people of Jericho were afraid because the Israelites were near. The Israelites are the Hebrews. It's the same thing. So they closed the city gates and guarded them. No one went into the city and no one came out. Then the Lord spoke to Joshua. He said, "Look, I have given you Jericho, its king and all its fighting men. March around the city with your army one time every day. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets made from horns of male sheep. Tell them to march in front of the Ark of the Covenant. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times. On that day, tell the priests to blow the trumpets as they march. They will make one long blast on the trumpets. When you hear that sound, have all the people give a loud shout. Then the walls of the city will fall, and the people will go straight into the city." These are God's instructions to Joshua. Remember, Joshua is the leader that Moses has appointed to be the leader of the Hebrews because Moses has died now. And God tells Joshua this is how they're going to do it. So he relays this to all the Hebrews, and they do this every day for 6 days. They march around the city. And on the 7th day, they got up at dawn. They marched around the city 7 times. They marched just as they had done on the days before. But on that day, they marched around the city 7 times. The 7th time around, the priests blew their trumpets. Then Joshua gave the command, "Now shout! The Lord has given you this city. The city and everything in it are to be destroyed as an offering to the Lord." When the priests blew the trumpets, the people shouted. At the sound of the trumpets and the people shout, the walls fell, and everyone ran straight into the city. So the Israelites, the Hebrews, defeated that city. And I absolutely love the story of Jericho because it really shows God's power. God's people followed his instructions exactly as he said to do. And on that last day, after they shouted, the huge walls of a really strong city completely fell, and they were able to run into the city and take over it. And I know that we as people, we don't have a city standing in our way for us to be living out our lives, do we? But there is something that does get in the way of us being close to God, and that is sin. And just like God helped the Hebrews by tearing down the walls of Jericho, God has already given us a way to be close to him by knocking the wall of sin down, hasn't he? He gave us Jesus. When Jesus died for our sins, he tore that wall down, that wall that gets between us and God and being close to him, that wall of sin. Jesus died for us so that we can be close to God. And I told you guys that this lesson is called Wrecking Ball, and Jesus is kind of our wrecking ball for sin, isn't he? God gave us Jesus, and Jesus has knocked down that wall of sin for us already, and we are forgiven. And these lessons are all about God building us into something new, and we don't have to worry about sin getting in the way of that because God has already sent his son for us to demolish that sin so that we can grow in our faith and be the people that we want to be. And I love this Under Construction series, and I hope that you guys have been enjoying it too. I really love seeing some of you guys on Sunday mornings now that we're slowly starting to get back to church, and I can't wait for the time where we get to meet with all the kids again, and I really miss so many of you, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.